how's it? South Africans and people of the world, welcome to my new podcast, Jaxx of All Trades, where we will be speaking about everything from pop culture to politics, skills, and learning about people's stories, because every joke is a goat in the making.
Please, stop sending me that Amahle Jaxx video. I urge you, please stop sending it to me.
So, why did I start this podcast? You bullied me. Let's maybe start there. You guys bullied me into doing a podcast, and now I finally did it. But no, on a more serious note, I have had a podcast on my vision board for about 2 years now, and I just never knew what I was going to talk about. And as this episode unfolds as to why I left my own company that I had built with my bare hands and with my friends, after 12 years, you'll soon understand why we find ourselves here. So let me just tell you a little bit about the podcast, right? So it's going to be, I don't want to say a variety show, but we're going to be doing a couple of different things, right? So obviously I'm known for current affairs. So we'll be breaking down key political issues in the country, societal issues and that. We'll be doing a culture corner vibe. So sometimes I'll have episodes where we have hot takes on like what's happening in the world, food, this or that, and then we'll have these deep dives where we're kind of exploring, complex topics like how does the South African government work, And then we're going to have guest spotlights because I happen to know some famous people. So we're going to have guest spotlights where I go into their space and I kind of learn about their skill and their trade. And hopefully I can impart that knowledge on you or help inspire you when you see these people who have made it in their trade. And so, yeah, that's what the podcast is about. Just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Amahle-Imvelo Jaxa. I was born and raised in the Eastern Cape. I went to a school called Balmoral, and then I went to JHS. I moved to Johannesburg in 2012. 2012 to pursue a career in education, and then I found myself an entrepreneur by mistake. And over the last 12 years, I've owned a company called Antelantal Agency and Events. We also owned a restaurant called The Royale, 357 Jan Smuts. Thank you. And I spent 12 years kind of like going to school. So I did a degree in politics, philosophy, and economics through UNISA. And don't you guys dare shade UNISA. All right, that's a real school. Anyone who can make it out of UNISA can take over the world. Thanks. So essentially, the last 12 years of my life have been running this company. And then one day I quit. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I think I want to give you, before we get into like the current affairs, cultural insights, guest interviews and stuff like that, I wanted to kind of just shed a little bit of light about myself and also announce to the world that I'm actually no longer part of the company, There's no bad vibes, because I think when, someone leaves a company that they've built by themselves, there's always this assumption that there was like a big fight or, the company was, broke or whatever the case may be. That wasn't the case. This was a personal decision of mine. And so, we're going to talk about it now. So maybe let's start about a fun fact, because I love a fun fact. So the average person changes careers 5 to 7 times in their lifetime. I've only ever been an entrepreneur. I've never worked in corporate. It terrifies me. Like, I'm 31 now, and if I had a job where I had to clock in every single day, like, respect to all of you, because I've never known that. I was 19 when we started this company. So that's my fun fact about employment. So, personal take. What started Antelantal? Essentially, we were these privileged, and I have to say that, we were these privileged kids who were sitting on a couch one day and realized that there was like a public holiday and it was June 16th, and we were like, oh my God, let's throw a party. So one friend called his mom and was like, Mom, can I use your tennis court? Another friend worked for Red Bull, and so they got us like the Red Bull kit or whatever. Another friend was a brand ambassador, not an influencer, because this was like 2012. There wasn't influencers yet. We were still called brand ambassadors for Casa Light. So we went to the SAB depot and we fetched stock of Casa Light at the time, because Casa Light was a new brand. And another friend organized sound, which was the worst sound you have ever heard in your life, but we still made it work. All right. So essentially, in about 3 days, we managed to come up with this party. And then another friend who was not really a designer, but knew his way around the computer, made a flyer, and the flyer said the party goes on from 8 p.m. until, and that's how we got our name. And somehow we also managed to get on Metro FM. Don't ask me how. We got on Metro FM and we promoted this party, and yeah, Bob's your uncle. We had 800 people on a tennis court in school uniform celebrating June 16. And that's how Until was born. And then Until then grew into this company, which was an events company, that has done events like Sunday Roast. I'm sorry, I know you all missed it. I'm here to say that I was the one who killed it. It was me who made that decision. I'm sorry. We've done Genesis All Black. We've done Bacardi Holiday Club, Best Day Ever, Pajama Party. The list goes on. We've also helped brands. And I think that's when, the evolution of the company and everyone realized what we had on our hands is when brands started coming to us like, what do you think about this? Please help us with this event, et cetera, et cetera. And then we realized that we had something on our hands, and this was just bigger than just being like an events company, right? So people started quitting their jobs. I was still in school, because my mother doesn't play around. Like, I needed a degree. So people quit their jobs, and we decided to focus on this thing and build it and make it a real company. And we did that quite successfully. We were also had, a CEO at the time who was, and I give so many props to him. He was brilliant in managing all these electric personalities. He, managed our finance as well. He made sure that we continuously reinvested in this company, and that's how it was, able to grow. And if there's any advice I can give to you, keep reinvesting in your company. There's no need to buy the new car immediately. There's no need for you to be popping bottles in the club. Keep reinvesting in your company and you will see the fruits of your labor. And I say this because the company is growing. It's growing. We have an office. We have like 2 employees. And then it's 2020. And I think we all remember what happened in 2020. And I remember that January, we were begging Hongs, who was our CEO, like, guys, it's time for dividends. Like, we have been groveling, because also us as people being privileged, but also, being quite frugal, our salaries were quite small, because we kept wanting to reinvest in the company. And if you've ever run an events company, you'll know that money comes in quickly and it leaves immediately. So even if you get that sponsorship on time, you have to pay your photographer, your artist, your this, your that. Bar's going to take weeks to do the recon. Sponsors are going to take weeks to pay you your other half. So we were very frugal in that sense. And so it's January 2020 and we're like, please, can we get some dividends out of this company? And he said no. And he was right. Because 2 months later, after we threw a Bacardi Holiday Club, and I remember we were making all these jokes like, should we have hand sanitizer at Bacardi Holiday Club? Should we, distance people? And Bacardi Holiday Club happened. And then that week, Cyril said, "Ndiyayivala le country. I'm closing it for 21 days." And those of us who obviously were in the entertainment business had absolutely no work. But because we were so frugal, because we were so, determined to keep reinvesting in our company, we were okay. For 6 months, we were still able to pay salaries. I've lived in this house since 2000. This is my house, by the way. I can't afford a studio yet. So like, share, subscribe, all that vibe, so that I can start making money, so that I can get into a studio and not have to do this in my house. Anyway, so yeah, we were able to sustain ourselves for, that period and be able to come back. But I think then that's where there was the shift for me. it was no longer fun, right? And what happened after COVID was that brands, the purse strings got tighter, okay? And brands essentially, it wasn't as easy to get sponsorship. You had to justify way more. All of a sudden, there was this social media aspect to it where you had to now shoot videos and, have a return on investment. What was digital? Did we trend? All of this making this thing that used to be so fun and so pure, all about now, not all about, but a little bit more tougher. And I also think in our efforts to make more money, and build our brand, we had been promoters at Sumo. And so every Friday, we had to be at Shogun. We had to book the DJs and we had to be the life of the parties. And we did that for 2 years. 2 years, I was in the club, tequila here, grooving, dancing until 4 a.m. So there was an element of me that was also like extremely exhausted with what was happening. But I think more than anything, as a company, we made a decision, and we all made this decision, by the way, that we wanted to shift more into becoming a marketing agency, an advertising agency. And as this dream was being built and becoming way more successful, I quickly realized that I wanted absolutely nothing to do with marketing. I don't want to be a strategist. I don't want to be an account manager. I don't want to build below the line, over the line, through the line. I wanted nothing to do with this, And it's not a realization that came immediately. I was extremely depressed. I was extremely anxious. And I would have to sit on my bed and quite literally beg myself to go to work. Like, you have to do this, you have to do this. And others days I would lose, where I would just switch off my phone and hide. So that made me also quite unreliable in my very own business. And so I just realized that like the version that I was becoming and the person that I was growing into no longer fit into Until Until. Until Until is great, by the way. They just won 2 awards for an APSA campaign that they did. And so the company is doing well. I just want to stress that like, there's no bad vibes. Yes, there's 1 or 2 people I don't get along with. And as much as I tried to leave as amicably as possible, not everyone was going to be happy with me leaving, or rather, they were going to have some ill feelings towards me. But this is not a gossip session that's like that. I'm just trying to tell you about why I left my company after 12 years. I'm not dogging anyone's name. So yeah, it was like, it must have been like a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday. I had a fight with leadership about something. I just felt like, I wasn't being appreciated at all. And I was tossing and turning. And then, in March 2024, it was about 1 a.m. I remember 1 a.m. I sent my resignation letter. I said, I'm done. I'm out. I can't do this anymore. And this is something I have been speaking to my therapist about for 2 years. So much so that when I walked into her office and I was like, I quit my job, she was like, finally. Because I had been in therapy for so long, and there is an episode in the season that's called How Much Therapy is Too Much Therapy, because I'm addicted to therapy and wellness and whatever. But that's another episode. So I quit my job, but I also want to stress that before I quit my job, I had saved up a lot of money. So I'm not going to sit here and say, if you're unhappy at your job, quit it. Don't do that. Unemployment rates in South Africa are extremely high, right? I had saved a lot of money. I had saved enough for me to pay 6 months rent, for me to live comfortably while I figure out what I'm doing. Maybe we should give me a round of applause. Hold on. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Frugal saver. We're going to have a lot of fun with this BPAT. So I quit my job. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I knew I had this degree in politics. I had enrolled at WITS for an honors degree in international relations. And now I was a sitting duck, essentially. And I went home to the Eastern Cape for about 3 weeks. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because I put my foot where my ancestors were. I also did a lunch there by my grandmother's house to just say thank you for keeping me alive. I'm not necessarily Christian, but I do believe in God and my ancestors. And after doing that lunch, everything started opening up. Brands were reaching out more, like, we want you on this campaign and that campaign. And so I was able to continuously sustain myself, But I feel like in that time still, there was always this conversation of, am I going to remain a director, a non-executive director in this company? Am I still going to be, really involved in the restaurant, the Royale? And I remember just sitting and thinking and like having to be honest with myself, because I think when you leave a company that you've built for 12 years, the fears that you have is disappointing yourself and disappointing the people that you've been doing this thing with, right? And so in an effort to not disappoint everyone, I was like, I'm going to stay on. We're going to figure it out. And then once again, epiphany. I was just like, I actually, honestly, truly don't want to do this. I don't. And so I remember taking the boys out for dinner and the 4 directors and being like, we went to Marble. I was like, bring the company card. We went to Marble and I sat them down and I was like, I've decided to sell. I've decided to sell my shares in Until. I've decided to sell my shares in Royale. I'm out. I'll finish Bacardi Holiday Club. And I think maybe that's why some people thought I was still part of the company. I'll finish Bacardi Holiday Club. I'll finish Best Day Ever. And then deuces. And so that's what happened. And I just, I just want to say, there's this quote that I found that I feel like I should read to you guys. And it says that it's hard leaving something you love, but it's worse staying somewhere that no longer loves the version of you you're becoming. And I was becoming someone else. And that someone else didn't fit that mold. It didn't fit the party girl anymore. And it didn't fit, I found out that I'm an introvert in real life. And then I was just like, that makes so much sense. Because I love people, but I'm an introverted extrovert. But what I really want to do is sit inside my house and read all these books. There's plenty of books everywhere in this house. But so leaving for me wasn't a weakness. It was actually one of the best decisions that I've made in my life. I might not necessarily be friends with everyone who I started this company with, but that's okay. Everything has its season, we move on with our lives. There are friendships there that I will treasure forever. There is a Tlani, a Charles, people that I speak to and see all the time, and I still wish the company well. I still believe in the main ethos of the company. It just wasn't for me anymore, and one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made. But what do the Christians say? God, what? You can tell one door closes, another one opens, right? So I'm sitting this one day on my couch and I'm doing this video about Rwanda. I don't really post much on TikTok. I'm doing this video about Rwanda, and I'm like, Xhosa people are going to do this, and Zulu people are going to do this, and Afrikaner Buddha men are going to be on the front lines with the Zulus, and I do this video. I'm sitting on my couch, and I watch this video explode in literally like an hour. And then people are like, what about Tswana people? What about these people? And so I do another video, and in these videos, I'm giving little bits of information about why we are at war with Rwanda. And then people say, what about Swati people? What about Ndebele people? And number one, shame on me, because one of my friends is Ndebele. And number two, I honestly did not know Swati people lived in South Africa. I thought you guys had your own kingdom. But I found out that in Mpumalanga, you guys are out there. So I did another video. And in 3 days, I had amassed 100,000 followers. And I thought to myself, okay, shit. This is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Hold on, let's give an air horn there. Right. And I thought to myself, okay, oh my God, like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is, I hadn't figured it out yet, but then I started slowly making these videos where I would explain, like, what's happening with Donald Trump, State of the Nation address. And then FNB hit me up and they were like, please, can you do a budget speech? And then I was like, oh my God, I have found my calling. And so that's literally why we're here today, is that you guys have bullied me saying TikTok is not enough. We need, more videos, more explanations of just current affairs, politics. I am terrified, I'll be honest with you guys, because I understand the magnitude of this power. And I've said this before on my TikTok, that, it's a lot to be the voice of the youth. It is quite also scary. I'm a very anxious person. I told you I've been in therapy for years. But I also understand that this is something that's necessary to move the country forward. It also allows me to employ my politics degree, so it's not just gathering dust. And so that's what the podcast is going to be about. And that's my story of why I left events, former events girly, turned into a current affairs girly. I also just want to stress quickly, I am not a journalist, all right? Those people went to school for that job and they deserve the credit that they are due. I'm not a journalist. I'm an enthusiast, a current affairs enthusiast, right? And I even say in my bio on TikTok, don't take me too seriously, because I also want to make sure that we have fun while we're still giving facts and information, right? The reason sometimes I don't, do breaking news is because those of you from TikTok know this, this notebook. I love information. I love to make sure I'm fact-finding because I understand how easy it is to spread misinformation. So this platform is to break down those complex topics like BRICS, like, foreign aid, like how does the South African government work? These companies that are going green, everything is going green. Remember when you had to buy paper straws? What does that actually mean, when we see all these landfills in Africa where all this fast fashion is being dumped? Those are the kind of conversations we're going to be having. And we have guests, obviously, who are musicians, artists, etc., who will be sharing their trade with us. And so I think that's me. How many minutes is that? 24. Okay. By the way, this is our hourglass. This is my signal that 30 minutes. This hourglass is, so it's a 30, what do you call it? A 30 glass. I don't know. This is my indication of whether or not I've been speaking for too long. We have a bunch of sounds that I would love to use, like that sadness. What else do we have? We've got some chimes. I'm going to be using a lot of these. What do we else do? Drum bass. Cool. So yeah, I want us to have fun. And so also in the podcast, we'll always have like a little bit of a fun segment. So our fun segment for today is essentially Jaxx's top 5 signs it's time to leave, right? Now remember, I said, do not quit your job if your parents aren't wealthy, if you do not have at least a year's savings, all right? Or if you don't have another job lined up. It's tough out here. We're going to speak about unemployment. We're going to speak about all these things. Do not quit your job. I was smart. I saved. I'm frugal. Okay. My grandmother always used to say, "Andingo soul kesna." And that's why I like to write everything down as well. It's from her. Anyway, so the top 5 signs that it's time to leave your job. Number 1, you start manifesting the Wi-Fi crashing out mid-meeting. I used to do this all the time. I used to be like, can Google be down? Because we used to use Google. They've now migrated to Teams, so I've heard. I used to manifest like there'd be no water in the office, because actually it's unconstitutional to have us at work when there's no water. I used to sit and beg like, oh my God, I hope there's something wrong today so that we don't have to go in. Okay, cool. And the sign number 2 is you have to negotiate with yourself every morning. I've spoken about this. I used to sit in my bedroom and beg myself and sit in the shower and just be like, it's just 8 hours. It's just 8 hours. You have to get through it. And I also think, just to add on, once you become so miserable at work that it starts affecting other people's moods, that's a little bit of a sign. And I think towards the end, and I'm sure my colleagues can speak to this, I was miserable. I wasn't fun to be around. So yeah. Number 3, your notes app is full of resignation letter drafts. So I didn't have drafts, but I definitely spoke to my therapist a lot about how to approach it. Like we would practice, like, how am I going to quit my job? And eventually when we did it, she was really happy. Number 4 is you Google jobs that don't involve people. It's just me. It's just me. I don't have to work with anyone except obviously the beautiful people at Black Native Studios who are shooting this for me. Yeah, there's only 2 of them, so that's great. Like I'm happy. I don't have to work with anyone. I work for myself. And the last one is you sigh before every Zoom meeting like it's a funeral. I think this is just in general everyone who works You know when you hear that, what's the Microsoft one? Doom, 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 doom. It's depressing. But this is the world that we live in now, where we literally have no time, no privacy. People are eating lunch at desks, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about me. So yeah, guys, I just want to leave you with this. This is our first episode. I'm super excited for this season. Some words of wisdom. I hate being motivated, but I feel like I have to motivate you guys. Maybe if you're thinking about it, maybe this could help you, but don't ever motivate me. Please don't do it. But I'm going to motivate you, and you tell me if you hate it, then I'll never do it again. So, number one, leaving does not mean failing. For the longest time, I thought I was a failure. I didn't tell my mom I quit my job for like 3 months. I told her, as she was dropping me off at the airport, right? And you know, there's drop-offs. I said, oh, by the way, I quit my job and I'm selling my shares. And she said, excuse me? And she drove around into the parking. And those who know my mom, she's a doctor. She's a type A. She believes everyone should have a job. There's no like room for creativity when it comes to her. But I think her support, her face had fear, but the words that were coming out of her mouth were very supportive. So shout out to you, Nozi. And yes, I do call her by her first name. You can grieve growth. I grieved so much. I was devastated. Also, another thing that kept happening to me was like, what if I leave and then they get like a $40 million retainer or 40 million rand retainer? Now I've lost out on money. But anyway, and the last one is reinvention isn't sacred. It is messy, right? It's nasty out here. There's a lot of doubt that you're going to experience if you decide to leave. There's a lot of fear, but I think having faith. Listen to how stupid motivational speaking is. Having faith that you've made the right decision carries you, and having a plan. For the longest time, I didn't have a plan. And then when I eventually had a plan, it all came together. So yeah, from one JOAT, that's a play on GOAT, by the way. Just so you know. From one JOAT to another, keep building, even if it means starting from the beginning. Drop a comment and let me know what your biggest, leap of faith was. And don't ever forget that every JOAT is a GOAT in the making. Thank you and have a super day.